Yo, what up, YouTube? Happy 4th of July to everybody. Hope everybody's not too intoxicated. But let's jump right into it, man. Obviously, this is 4th of July. And, when you think of 4th of July, you think fireworks. And we're going to have some fireworks December 3rd. As we got notice a few days back that we are going to see the rematch we've all been waiting for the last couple years, and that is the rematch between Puerto Rico's Miguel Cotto and Mexico's Antonio Margarito. Their epic match in 2008 was, I don't know, I think it was regarded as Fight of the Year, one of them, but it was probably one of the most grueling, intense welterweight fights in years prior to that, or at least up to that point. You know, Going into the fight, Antonio Margarito was always this fighter that a lot of guys seem to not want to risk getting in the ring with because of his size, his relentless pressure, and not the fastest guy, but he has one of his the main staples of Antonio Margarito is his chin, and he's been able to really take the confidence out of fighters, being the fact that he could take a punch and just keep coming and not stop. And he ran into a roadblock with Paul Williams, and prior to that, like I said, Margarito was the champion for at least one of the welterweight champions for years, for several years, and he was actually a guy that was in line to fight Floyd Mayweather back in 05, 06, and for whatever people's opinions as far as to why that didn't happen. Um, some people blame Arum, or some people think Floyd ducked him. Whatever the case may be, they never fought, but Margarito kept on fighting and ran into a roadblock with Paul Williams. Now with Miguel Cotto, he was obviously anybody coming out of Puerto Rico and really Mexico. They, depending at least how far they get to, there's that watchful eye that the boxing public has over anybody from those regions because of the lineage that these, both Mexico and Puerto Rico have. All these fighters that they've bred, they make for exciting fights. And if you look at the last 30 years, man, I can tell you 10 fights between Puerto Rico and Mexico that were epic fights. So going into this fight, Miguel Cotto was, again, he was undefeated, one of the top fighters in the sport. Had really tough fights at 140. Managed to, he seemed to get hurt at 140. His chin was a little suspect, and moved up to 147 and seemed a little more durable. Was able to maintain his speed that he, the speed that he had, and think Cotto too, man. I think at that point he was a very underrated boxer, and going into the Margarito fight, he had beaten Shane Mosley, he had beaten Zab Judah, had tough fights with Chop Chop at 140, Ricardo Torres. So we knew, up to the point with him fighting Margarito, we knew both guys were battle tested. So it was really gonna be a test of whose will would be taken in this fight. So fight starts, and Miguel Cotto's looking probably at his best, landing combination punches, landing counter left hooks. But as I mentioned before, Margarito is he's a monster, man, and he kept coming and coming and coming, and pressuring Cotto to the point where, he succumbed to the pressure, and Margarito inevitably took him out in the 11th round. Now, what ended up happening, post that fight months later, was, Margarito's at the top of the welterweight division. He's the number one guy, and he goes to fight a guy we know by the name of Shane Mosley, who at that point had come off a fight with Ricardo Mayorga. Didn't look too great, so the odds were heavily favoring Antonio Margarito, who again had just come off a knockout victory or TKO stoppage of Miguel Cotto. and he was on top of the boxing world. But what ended up happening prior to that fight is we ended up finding out that Margarito had his wraps loaded with, you know, it seemed as if it was a dry gauze that was just hard, you know, it was just really hardened, and it would harden up as the wraps would gain moisture. So, and obviously that's according to the reports from the LA Athletic Commission. But needless to say, he was suspended for a year and had actually, let me backtrack. The fight went on, got annihilated by Shane Mosley, and you know he pulled off the upset, which many people called an upset considering, you know, Margarito's win over Cotto, but a lot of us didn't see that coming. So, you know, he's off a year, comes back after a little hiatus due to suspension, has a tune-up fight with not the trainer, Robert Garcia, at 154, and didn't look good at all. So then he jumps into a fight with Manny Pacquiao, and even with that fight, you're thinking, man, this guy's really big, and he's gonna really tower over Pacquiao. But Pacquiao just went in there and annihilated him, man, like really bad, to the point where he suffered a fractured orbital bone, and has been, you know, on the shelf since that, which was last November. So now we're in present time, and actually for Cotto, to backtrack a little bit, he went on to actually, you know, he went on to fight after his loss to Margarito. He had fights with, you know, he had a tune-up with Jennings, won a version of the welterweight title, had a really grueling fight with Joshua Clottey, which some people dispute that he won, and then he jumped into a fight with Manny Pacquiao, which, you know, he was beaten down. Had a good first 4 rounds were pretty good, but, you know, once he got knocked down and felt Pacquiao's power and speed, there was just it was a dead end for Cotto at that point. So he's gone on to fight again. Yuri Foreman just fought Ricardo Mayorga. So again, now we're here, and it's 3 years removed from when they originally fought. And the question now is going to be not really who's going to take the wheel, I would say, or maybe I should say, not only that, but who's got more left in the tank. And I think this is what this fight's gonna prove, really. You know, many suspect that Margarito's pressure is still gonna be an issue for Miguel Cotto, which I think could be true. But again, we have to see really where Margarito physically is at right now, because I mean, I think it's safe to say the beating he took from Pacquiao is probably the worst beating he's ever taken consistently throughout 12 rounds. Even in comparison to the Mosley fight, you know, Mosley beat him up, but I think systematically, man, I don't think Margarito's been beaten as bad as he was against Pacquiao. And I think in the long run, it may be more damaging to him than what those 9 rounds were with Shane Mosley. But nevertheless, you can't go into this fight thinking Margarito is a totally shot fighter. I think that would be totally foolish. And I think I think Cotto knows, and his team knows, that they have to come in there with a good game plan and really implement some of the new, I don't want to say new things, but maybe some of the things that Cotto did in the Mayorga fight that were more along the lines of being strict with the game plan and not really going off and trying to take the guy out when, you know, when it doesn't present itself. Because I think that's, along with other things that may have occurred in the fight, which we obviously can't prove, I think some of that did tie into the first Margarito fight. And I think part of me believes that Cotto took Margarito for granted. And, you know, he found out the hard way. So we got a December 3rd rematch. They're trying to get it in Madison Square Garden, I'm hearing, but, you know, Vegas is always the option because, you know, the casinos and the money and everything. So, but I think they're trying to make it an East Coast fight. I think if they have it in Madison Square Garden, it's gonna be a huge draw. I may even go to this shit, being I'm on the East Coast. But exciting news, man. I mean, we got. I mean, if you look at it right now, man, the landscape of the fall, we got 3 big fights. We got Mayweather Ortiz, Pacquiao Marquez, and now Cotto Margarito too. And that's actually a crazy way to end 2011. So, no predictions for this fight yet. Obviously, it's too soon. But I mean, I think it's great news that this fight's finally happening. I think this is a fight for the boxing fans, and I think this is a fight really for the casual fans who are looking for an exciting fight. Because I mean, if you think that these two guys are gonna just sit there and peck at each other, you're sadly mistaken. So let me know what you think about this, man. December 3rd, tentative date. Miguel Cotto, Antonio Margarito 2, the rematch. So let me know what you think, man. And I'll be back soon. Peace.